Welcome back to A Day in the Life. We have hopefully not too long of a video today. I'm going through all 79 new releases that I read this year, which is a lot. So we're gonna do it as rapid fire as I can, which is gonna be hard for me because we all know I love to yap. I've grouped everything into tiers based on my ratings, and we're gonna start with the books that didn't really work for me and then work our way up so that we end on a high note with my 5-star ratings. And there's actually 5 new releases in this category, which for me is pretty impressive because that is out of 9 5-star ratings that I've given this year. All right, grab a coffee, get cozy, settle in, and let's get started. So starting with the bottom tier, which are books that feel like a bird pooping on you. These are books that I personally should have DNF'd. And I will say, just because they didn't work for me does not mean they won't work for you. I really want to harp on that because the beauty of reading and books is that everyone has different tastes. That's why there are so many books out in this world, because there is something for everyone. There's only 3 books in this category: a romance, a fantasy, and a mystery. The romance is a novella, so take that with a grain of salt. However, No Place Like Home was like somebody tried to shove an entire romance plot into a novella, which is not the purpose of a novella. This is part of the Kindle Unlimited Home Sweet Holidays novella collection. This was the worst one by far. Kiss of the Basilisk, actually not terrible, and I did finish it. However, the reason why I think I should have just DNF'd it is because by the halfway point, it was pretty much just smut. Crazy monster smut. A lot of it. I don't even, yeah, it was a lot. It wasn't terrible, but like, yeah. And then Murder by Cheesecake is a mystery. This one I thought was a me thing at first because I have not watched The Golden Girls, and this is like a retelling of The Golden Girls in a mystery setting. Then I read the reviews. I don't think I'm alone in it. I think the plot was like 20% mystery and 80% planning a wedding, and that's just not what I signed up for. Now you'll notice I don't own any books from the first category, nor do I own any of the books from the second category, which are books that feel like drinking a cup of coffee but needing the caffeine, so you drink the whole cup anyways. You know what I mean? These are books that aren't necessarily terrible, but there was probably something that really irked me. It was hard to finish. I probably wouldn't recommend. I could understand why some people might like them. They just aren't my cup of tea or a cup of coffee in this case. There's 3 thrillers and mysteries and 3 romances in this category. The romances are all novellas, so again, take the novellas with a grain of salt because it's hard to get a really good novella. 2 of them are from the Scared Sexy Kindle Unlimited collection. Space Vampire and Beautiful Nightmare, they were just like a little too much for me. Beautiful Nightmare was a weird concept for me to get my brain around, and Space Vampire actually pissed me off because they start off not knowing each other and end off saying I love you to each other, which no. I don't like that. And then Merry and Bright was from the Home Sweet Holidays collection. Nothing like inherently bad about this one. I just didn't really get behind the romance. Claire Darling and The Bachelorette Party were 2 thrillers that I thought were fine, period. Claire Darling, even less so. The twist in this one was predictable and also felt like a cop-out, and I didn't like that. And The Bachelorette Party, the characters were just dumb. Like so dumb in a sense that was unbelievable, and that made it frustrating. And then The Dead Come to Stay is probably my fault because I didn't read the first book in the series. I was given the second book as an arc. Didn't realize it was a second book. I will say the author will mention the characters by their first name, their last name, full name, nicknames. I think that makes it very confusing even if you do read the first book. And I also thought that the solution was told rather than shown, which I didn't really like either. Okay, now we're starting to get to the good stuff. This category is books that feel like eating pizza without ranch. This is probably very specific to me. I like pizza, not my first choice ever. If you give me ranch with it as a side, I will gobble it up. So these are books that were decent. There's probably something missing from it. If you really like the genre or the author, then I think objectively you'd probably enjoy it. They're generally above average, but the chances are high that I probably forgot most of the plot by this point because they just don't stand out to me. This is the biggest category, I think. There are 24 books in here. 2 fantasies, Wild Reverence and Gifted and Talented, which I have a special edition for, which, like, how fun. Wild Reverence for me was actually kind of a disappointment. I really love Divine Rivals. This one was just a little bit too, like, poetically written for me. Not enough action. It was very slow, and the romance is kind of insta-love, in my opinion, which is not my favorite, as most of you know. I do think if you really love Rebecca Ross and you love her her writing, you'd probably enjoy it. Gifted and Talented, kind of the same thing. I actually was surprised by how much I did end up enjoying it because it was slow in the beginning. The audiobook for this one is fantastic, I will say. And if you like Olive Blake's writing, I think that you would probably enjoy this. It's definitely very character driven. Not much happens. There is magical realism in this, which I do like. The characters are all kind of terrible, which I also like. And there's a lot of political undertones, which the way that Olive does it, I really, really enjoy. So if that all sounds good to you, you could pick it up, but it's long and really descriptive. The only historical fiction in this category is Garbage Town. This was a little bit of a disappointment for me. The biggest reason is because there was no author's note. And I just think if a historical fiction is based off of real events in some capacity, I need to know at the end what exactly was real and what was fake. And that's the first time I've ever docked a book for not having an author's note, but I really needed it in this one. One lit fic, and that is The 10-Year Affair. This, I feel like you have to be a very specific type of person to enjoy it. For the most part, I did. I do like kind of terrible main characters. I don't mind a cheating plot, which this literally is. It's about an affair. I like alternate timelines. I like books where not much happens. The only problem with this one for me is that it felt really long despite being under 300 pages. Like, it was kind of difficult to read through at a fast pace, which if a book is under 300 pages, that's usually what I want. One Sci-Fi, which is Exiles. This was just kind of a wild ride. Very short book. I think also under 300 pages, maybe even under 200 pages. Very gory. I didn't love how the women were portrayed in this book, but it was fast paced. If you're a big sci-fi fan, you don't mind a lot of gore. It's a short book. Two thrillers, Too Old for This, and We Won't All Survive. We Won't All Survive is a YA thriller, and I really felt that. This felt very predictable for me. I do think, though, if you are newer to thrillers or if you're a fan of YA thrillers, it could be a good one to pick up because it was very atmospheric, a pretty original plot other than the twists, and I think it has a really good, like, summer vibe. Now, Too Old for This, I actually really enjoyed. I'm trying to remember why I rated it this low, to be honest, because it was a fun time. I thought the audiobook was incredible. It's told from the perspective of a retired serial killer. I think that there were some parts that were just a little bit not believable for me. I think if you're really a fan of thrillers and you want a unique viewpoint, pick this one up. Now, we've got 17 romances in this category. For a romance lover, I am a very harsh critic. I do think what determines a good romance is very, very dependent on the reader and your preferences. I think it is the most obvious in this genre because I don't really like golden retriever book boyfriends. A lot of people do. I really like a grumpy book boyfriend. Some people don't, and I will almost always rate a book with a grumpy book boyfriend higher. It just is what it is. If you feel the same way, please let me know in the comments. There are 8 novellas in here, which honestly, at this level, pretty good rating for a novella. Bound by Ellie Hazelwood was audiobook only. I actually think if I read it physically, I'd probably like it better. I just didn't get behind the romance. The Fall Risk by Abby Jimenez, I really enjoyed, but there was a secondary romance shoved in it, and it didn't need that. I wanted to hang out with the main couple. I didn't care about the other couple. Set Piece and Grape Juice are both A31 Stories novellas. I really love their novellas. These ones are just my lesser favorites. I didn't really get behind the romances as much in these ones. Spicy Little Curses and My Boyfriends Are All Monsters were part of the Scared Sexy novella collection. Oh wait, and Falling. These were good, not great, but I actually enjoyed these for the most part. And then You Better Not Pout is from the Home Sweet Holidays Kindle Unlimited collection. The only issue I had with this is that it was a second chance romance, and I just think that's really hard to make believable in a novella. For the full-length romances, First Time Caller is in here for me. The pace of this is off for me, but I think that that's how I feel about most of B.K. Borson's writing. Slow in the beginning, really fast-paced at the end. I also didn't love how much the side characters interjected in this one. Last Night Was Fun I actually did really enjoy. I do think you have to like STEM romances and baseball in order to enjoy this book, but the main male character was a hunk. Same thing with Friends to Lovers. I'm not a big Friends to Lovers fan, so I do think I kind of automatically dock them a little bit lower. If you are a big Friends to Lovers romance trope fan, I think this one's objectively a good one. I love Nora Dahlia's writing. Backslide, I really enjoyed. The only thing that drove me up a wall is the amount of That's What She Said jokes. Not my type of humor, personally. Summer in the City, I actually did really like, except for the female main character. By the end of it, I wanted to murder her. The spice in this one was incredible, and this is Alex Astor's first romance, like contemporary romance, and I am excited for her next one, and whenever that is, because I feel like she's gonna learn from this and make it even better. The Favorites is on here. I don't know if this is exactly a romance. This one just didn't hit for me like it did for most people. I think it's probably a me thing. I didn't connect to the characters, like, at all. The Blonde Who Came In From the Cold, this series is just a little too cheesy for me. It's romance suspense. There's spies, which I loved the idea of. The way that it's written, just like a little too much. I've heard the audiobook is better, and I feel like I probably should have done it through audio. And Irish Summer was like a fine period romance. If you really want to read a romance set in Ireland, pick it up. But otherwise, I think there are better ones out there. And then the Love Haters, which pains me to put it this low because I love Catherine Center. This female main character just was like a little too much for me. I wanted her to be a little less stubborn and get her shit together a little bit more. And I understand that that wasn't the point of this book. The author's note explains a lot of it. I think just while I was reading it, I just couldn't get into it as much as I wanted to. Okay, I had to take a quick pause because the sun was getting so bright that I couldn't see. So the angle is probably different, but we're gonna continue. Now we're getting to the juicy stuff. From here on out, these are books that I would just generally recommend all the time to pretty much anyone. We're starting with the category of books that make you feel like you just went on a fabulous vacation, you just didn't get to do everything on it, including some of the big things. So these are books that I really, really enjoyed. There are just some things missing here and there to really bring it to like a perfect book. Generally speaking, I feel pretty comfortable recommending these books, especially if I know you like the genre or the author. I'm really just being picky at this point. I am a very harsh critic when it comes to what I deem as a perfect book, which is 5 stars. I don't give out 6-star ratings, so there's only 2 more tiers after this one. 2 fantasies on this list, A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping, and then The Night and the Moth. These are both by authors that I really, really love, but I love their other books better, and when I'm comparing, I just can't give these books as high of a rating. The Night and the Moth especially, I loved the Shepherd's King duology. I think I gave book 2 5 stars and book 1 4.5 stars. Loved them. Ate them up. This one just fell a little flat for me, especially in the romance department. And then A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping I did really love. It was just a little bit too slow, especially compared to her other book, A Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. 2 lit fics, These Summer Storms and The Names. Both of these books I also really, really loved. The Names, the only critique I have is I personally didn't like the ending. I wanted much different ending. That's definitely a me thing. These Summer Storms, I just wanted a chapter from the perspective of one character. I don't want to spoil it, not that it's really a spoiler, but I actually did really, really enjoy this one too. There's some mixed reviews on this one because I think a lot of people went in thinking it was going to be Inheritance Games, and it's not. It's very much Succession vibes though, so if you like the TV show, I do think you'd like the book. 2 magical realism books, Twice and The Other Side of Now. I really liked both of these. This one especially was so cozy and had like probably the perfect ending. Not wrapped up in a bow, but satisfying enough for me to be happy with where it ended up. 2 mysteries, and both happen to be the second book in their respective series. So Vera Wong's Guide to Snooping on a Dead Man and How to Seal Your Own Fate. I liked books 1 for both of these series better, although I will say How to Seal Your Own Fate slowly, like there's a little bit more romance in each one, so I am really excited to read the next one because I am hoping that there will be even more romance in that one. Vera Wong was great too, although like I always say, audio only. Truly the best way to consume this book. 2 thrillers, A Killing Cold and Death at the White Hart. Both, generally speaking, to me felt like really good, solid thrillers. Thrillers, I'm even harder on their ratings. It is almost nearly impossible for me to give a 5-star to a thriller. I think I've only given 1, and that was Kill for Me, Kill for You, which if you know, you know, my favorite thriller of all time. This one had a lot of twists that were very surprising. It was just maybe too many, but I did really enjoy it. And Death at the White Hart I really liked. I don't normally read like crime investigative thrillers, and that one was really good. The twist was just a little bit predictable for me, but I still really liked both of them. 2 nonfictions, Everything is Tuberculosis and You Want to Be on Top. One is a memoir, one is like a true educational nonfiction. I really liked both of them. I also don't normally rate nonfiction books that high, except for memoirs I don't normally rate. This one I felt okay with rating because it does go into the author's backstory, but it focuses a lot more on behind the scenes of that, which I really like. So if you did watch America's Next Top Model when you were younger, I would say pick this up. And Everything is Tuberculosis objectively just was a really good book. If it had been longer, I probably would have hated it. If I had read it physically, I also probably wouldn't have liked it as much, but I do recommend both of them. Then we have 10 romances, 3 novellas, 2 by 2x831 stories, Exit Lane and Square Waves. I really, really loved both of these. Exit Lane just had a trope that I didn't love. I can normally work with it, but in this one it felt a little yucky and unnecessary. And then Square Waves I really, really loved as well, but I do think that the main female character needed like a little bit of therapy at the end. And I don't think that she fully got it. I think she does go to therapy, but I just don't really feel like she resolved her issues. Then Hot for Slayer is Allie's book in the Scared Sexy novella collection. Allie's novellas and books just generally get higher ratings for me. This one is no different. My only problem with her novellas is that I always want them to be longer, and I really like when I read a novella and by the end of it, I'm like, you know what? I'm happy with where that ended. And with hers, I always want like 10 more chapters. I think it's a good way to rate a novella because a novella is supposed to be like a little bit of a snack, but it's not supposed to leave you hungry. It's supposed to satisfy you. I always have analogies with food because it's all I think about. Now for the full-length romances, so Good Spirits, shockingly, is here. I was worried that it would be the same thing as First Time Caller, and it was. I still had issues with the pacing, but because there was a paranormal element to it, I was able to like still be interested. I think I do love a paranormal romance, honestly. That's a new discovery of mine. Any Trope at You is also in this category. I really, really loved it. Really funny. Lots of tropes. It is cheesy. And I normally don't like cheese, but this one I, for some reason, could work with. I think that there was, if I remember correctly, a little bit of a third act breakup that I didn't jive with super well, but I still really love this. Problematic Summer Romance might be my least favorite Allie Hazelwood book. I just didn't really connect with the romance. I found Maya, the female main character, to be a little bit annoying, and the age gap didn't totally work for me. But regardless, it's Allie Hazelwood, and I love her writing and her spice and the banter and the setting, so I still honestly ate it up. Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry is also on here. This isn't one of my favorites of hers, but I still really, really loved it. I love her writing so much. I just felt more connected to the past versus the present timeline. I think that this one is her really only romance that felt like insta-love to me, and as we know, I'm not a big insta-love girly. The Heartbreak Hotel, also in this category. I really, really enjoyed this book. I like to say that this is similar to Abby Jimenez's writing in that the romance part of it, like their connection, isn't that hard. It's all the like surrounding stuff and their past trauma that gets in the way. No different in this book. It was really cozy, and I love the concept of a bed and breakfast for the heartbroken. Like, I could have used that. I'm healed now, but there was a time. The Best Worst Thing, also loved this romance. This just has a golden retriever book boyfriend, and like I said, not the biggest fan of golden retriever book boyfriends, but I do know that her next book has a grumpy sunshine romance, so I have no doubt I'm gonna eat it up because her writing, impeccable, the spice, the tension, everything. It honestly is objectively a phenomenal romance book. And then What Happens in Amsterdam, this was a surprise to me because I read one of her books last year and didn't love it. I really ate this up. The spice kind of came out of nowhere and I was like giggling in bed at 1 a.m. Loved it though. A couple things that irked me. There were just some details that were constantly brought up in this book that I didn't need. I didn't need to hear that many times that the male main character was balding or that the main female character was a preemie baby and that made her growing up difficult. I'm sure it made your parents' lives difficult, but you as a child, I just like can't. That's like when American Idol contestants would have their sob story be the fact that they were preemie babies. I just like can't really get behind it. I can't remember if I said this, but we're getting to the point now where I basically own every single one of these books. This category is the category right before my 5-star reads. These are books that feel like you're in a fantastic dream and you wake up right before the good part. Basically, almost perfect, but there is just one thing really holding me back from giving it a full 5 stars. That said, I love them and I would recommend them 1000%, just with like a little caveat, like love this romance, but it has a terrible third act breakup, or love this book, but it is slow to start. Things that could like really impact a reader depending on what they like. That said, we've got 4 fantasies in this category. Onyx Storm is in here. I loved it. I know that a lot of people have problems with this book. I think Rebecca Yarros in my mind can do no wrong. I do think this one was a little bit more boring compared to the other 2, so for that reason, not a full 5 stars. Rebel Witch, also the sequel to Heartless Hunter, the Crimson Moth duology, like a chef's kiss, perfect enemies to lovers duology. The first book I gave 5 stars to. This one was not as good, but it was still incredible. Enchantra, I really liked Phantasma. This one though, even better. The spice in this one, oh, it was so good. I cannot wait for the next book. And then Aftertaste, which is such a unique read. The only reason I didn't give this full 5 stars is because I didn't love the ending. But if you are a fan of horror, fantasy, paranormal, just like a mix of genres in a book. If you really like the show The Bear, this has the behind the scenes of culinary life in New York City, so that element too makes it so fun. I loved this book. One historical fiction, one good thing, loved it. This was a historical fiction with like almost like a road trip setup, because this woman ends up having to travel throughout all of Italy to keep herself safe. So you get to be in all of these places in Italy. I learned so much. I really, really love this one. This is another scenario where the ending was just like not exactly what I wanted. Two horrors, Play Nice and Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil. Honestly, both of these loved. Ate them up. Bury Your Bones, again, the ending, not perfect. And then Play Nice, I don't remember what exactly it was. Just didn't give me the 5-star feeling, but I loved it. Two lit fics, Broken Country and Wreck. Wreck is the sequel to Sandwich, which I also loved. Both of these books, so good, but not for everyone. This has a cheating trope, so if you don't want to read about that, just don't pick it up, because otherwise I would say this is like perfect. Just was a little slow in the beginning, but I loved it. Cried like a baby at the end. Wreck, also loved. This is the most relatable humor I think I've ever read in a book. It could be because it makes me feel like it's New England humor and I am from New England. This one follows the mom who's going through some health scare issues, and the way she deals with it is honestly so relatable. I loved it. Loved it. I have one mystery that's also kind of like sci-fi, so Wild Dark Shore. Loved this. The ending, though, pissed me off, and I understand why it was necessary, but it still pissed me off. And then Conform, which is actually a sci-fi. This is a dystopian romance. Loved it as well. This is an intro to a new dystopian romance series, so I feel like you have to remember that going into it. It's going to be kind of like bare bones with the world building. I'm ready to learn a lot more. I have the prequel, which is coming out in March, and I'm so excited to read it. 4 thrillers in this category. The Thrashers, YA thriller. Loved it. Yet again, the ending did piss me off, but I have heard rumblings that there will be a second book. This book will bury me. Also loved, just like a teensy bit too predictable, but I loved it. Couldn't put it down. We Are All Guilty here. Also could not put it down. Also had surprising twists in here that I was mad at myself for not getting correct. Maybe just like a tad too long, but I loved it. And this has such good summer thriller vibes. And then Famous Last Words, which I also loved. Ooh, I could not put this one down either. This one also had some twists that were a little bit predictable, though there were a couple that I didn't guess. But I love this author's writing so much. She makes thrillers feel less like juicy gossip. I don't know if that makes any sense, but she makes them feel almost like more like contemporary fictions than just straight up a thriller. And I love that. And only 4 romances in this category. It's a love story. If you know me on either Instagram or TikTok, you know how much I love this romance. The only thing about this book is that it had kind of a tough third act breakup, but the vibes, the main male character being grumpy, but also like such a good listener and a cinnamon roll deep, 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 deep down. I love this book so much. Also, the female main character was so relatable. As somebody who is still single in her 30s, so relatable. I also loved Left of Forever. This is a second chance romance, which is also not one of my favorite tropes, but I still honestly gobbled this book up. And the flashbacks made it a lot more believable than I normally feel about second chance romances. There's also one novella on here, and that is All Wrapped Up in You. This is the last one in the Home Sweet Holidays collection. Loved it. This was basically a perfect novella. Didn't feel any insta-love. It ended a little bit abruptly, and for that reason, it's not a 5-star read. It's also really hard in my brain to think, oh, I could give 5 stars to a novella, but the tension was so good. The little like meet cute, I love this. If you're gonna read one holiday romance novella, this is the one I would choose. And then we have Say You'll Remember Me. I loved this one as well. This is a little insta-lovey, which made it a little bit hard for me to give it a higher rating, but I loved this book. And it's also not just a straightforward romance novel, because it is insta-love, but it's a believable insta-love. The only thing keeping this couple from being together are outside forces, and that feels really realistic and really different from a lot of books that a lot of romance authors write, and I really liked that. I thought this was very unique, very heartfelt, very good book. I actually lied to you. There are 6 books in this last category. My 5-star reads, my books that I consider my children at this point. I forgot that I had just read a book and gave it 5 stars. So without further ado, One Mystery, The Impossible Fortune by Richard Osman, obviously. I loved getting to know Ron. I love this series so much. Every single book. Love them. I have no notes every time. The only thing I want is confirmation that this series will never end. And I don't even know if there is going to be another one. I'm just assuming because nobody said otherwise. One lit fic, and that is The Bright Years. This, I think, is my favorite read of the year. It made me sob. It made me think. It shocked me in the middle of the book, which I love when non-romances have a plot twist. I feel like they can really just change the entire story. Under 300 pages. I have no notes on this one. Truly, no notes. And then we got some romances. Now we actually have two from the same author, Deep End and Mate by Ali Hazelwood. I told you guys, I love Ali. I love her writing. I ate both of these books up. Mate actually took a little bit of time, I will say. The first half was a little bit slow. It started getting better and I was like, I'm gonna like this, but I'm gonna feel like it was too long. The second half, unputdownable. I read it in less than 3 hours. The tension, the banter, the yearning, the slow burn. Ugh. It was so good. So good. And Deep End was just like fun and unique for her with the sports setting and the college setting. It was more of like a friends with benefits-ish to love situation. I ate it up. Loved Lucas. Also no notes on this one. And we have One Golden Summer by Carly Fortune. This is probably my favorite strangers to lovers romance to ever exist. There aren't a lot of really good ones out there, to be honest. This one is done so well. I love that Charlie was like a little bit of a playboy. I love that it didn't feel like insta-love. They have a little bit of a meet cute, then they're just friendly, then eventually romance blossoms. I just love this book so much, the vibes. Ugh. And lastly, Atmosphere. I mean, this book was also incredible. Now this is a little bit historical fiction and also romance, although I'm putting it under romance because that feels like the bigger plot at play. But TJR's writing is just phenomenal. It's no different in this one. I cried so hard at the end. I cried in the middle. I don't cry a lot in books, so when a book can do it twice, crazy. Anyways, so those are all the new releases I read this year. If you stuck through this entire video, thank you so much. Let me know in the comments what your favorite new release was of 2025. There are so many coming up next year that I cannot wait for. So if you guys want a video on all the new releases I'm looking forward to, I could definitely do that too. Maybe I'll do it by genre because I feel like I need to do some organization here in my own brain, let alone before I present anything to you guys. Anyways, I'm yapping for no reason. I just don't know how to end this. So I'm gonna go. Thank you for hanging, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.